Hello there.
The room is quiet in a way that feels almost intentional, like it's holding its breath with you. A soft glow from your phone screen fades in and out on the nightstand, lighting up the ceiling just enough to remind you that it's late, or maybe early. It's hard to tell anymore. Outside, a distant hum of traffic passes by like waves you can't quite see, only hear, steady, indifferent, moving on. You lie there, staring upward, tracing invisible shapes in the cracks of the ceiling. There's a certain stillness in moments like this. Not peaceful, exactly. More like suspended. As if time has decided to slow down just for you, while everything else keeps its usual pace. Somewhere out there, people are celebrating something. A promotion. A new relationship. A small victory that meant the world to them. Someone is boarding a flight, chasing a dream they once whispered to themselves. Someone is laughing, surrounded by friends, not thinking twice about how far they've come. And here you are. Not unhappy. Not exactly stuck. But not quite moving forward either. It's a quiet feeling. Subtle enough that you can ignore it during the day, when distractions are loud and constant. But at night, when everything softens, it shows up without knocking. It sits beside you, uninvited, yet strangely familiar. The feeling of being left behind. Not in a dramatic, obvious way. No grand moment where the world rushes ahead and leaves you in the dust. It's quieter than that. Almost polite. Like watching everyone else's lives gently drift forward, while yours lingers in the same place, just a little longer than you expected. Maybe it feels this way because we were never really taught how to measure our lives without comparing them to someone else's. From a young age, everything came with a timeline. You start here, you reach that by this age, and if you're lucky, or disciplined, or talented enough, you arrive at a place that looks like progress. It's like standing on a long moving walkway at an airport. Everyone steps on, and there's this quiet expectation that you'll keep pace, that you won't slow down, that you won't step off. But life isn't built like that. It's more like a series of winding paths through a forest. Some people find a clear trail early on, one that feels almost guided. Others spend more time wandering, pausing, turning back, or just sitting for a while, listening to the wind move through the trees. And somehow, we've convinced ourselves that wandering means we are behind. Psychologically, it makes sense. We are wired to look around, to orient ourselves based on others. It's how we learn, how we survive. But in a world where we are constantly exposed to curated glimpses of everyone else's highlight reels, that instinct gets amplified. We don't just see where we are, we see where we aren't. And that gap. That's where the feeling lives. But here's the quiet truth we don't say out loud enough. It's completely human to feel this way. To question your pace. To wonder if you've missed something, or taken a wrong turn somewhere along the line. It doesn't mean you're failing. It doesn't mean you're stuck forever. It just means you're aware. Aware that life is moving. Aware that you want something more, even if you can't quite name it yet. And maybe that awareness feels heavy sometimes, like carrying a map without knowing where the "you are here" mark is. But even that is part of being on the path. I remember a night that felt almost identical to this one. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, laptop still open but long forgotten, its screen dimming into a dull grey. The only real light in the room came from the street lamp outside my window, casting this soft, amber glow that stretched across the floor and climbed halfway up the wall. It made everything feel slower, like time itself had thickened. My phone buzzed. Just once. I picked it up without thinking, more out of habit than curiosity. It was a notification from social media. Someone I used to know had posted something. We weren't close anymore, not really. Just the kind of person who used to sit a few seats away in class, someone whose life you quietly kept up with from a distance. I tapped it anyway. The photo loaded slowly, like it was giving me time to change my mind. But I didn't. There they were, standing in an airport, smiling in that effortless way people do when something big is happening. A suitcase by their side, a caption about new beginnings and finally taking the leap. There were comments pouring in underneath. Congratulations, excitement, heart emojis stacked like confetti. I stared at it longer than I should have. Not because I wasn't happy for them. I think part of me really was. But there was something else, something quieter, slipping in underneath that feeling. Something harder to name. I locked my phone and set it down beside me, but the image stayed. It lingered in the back of my mind like a song you didn't choose to play. And then the thought started, slow at first. What am I doing? It wasn't loud or dramatic. It didn't crash into me. It just unfolded. Calm. Almost reasonable. I looked around my room, the same room I had been in for what felt like forever. The same desk, the same unfinished plans, the same quiet promises I kept telling myself I'd get to soon. Outside, a car passed by, its headlights briefly sweeping across the ceiling before disappearing again, like a reminder that things were still moving, just not here. I sat there for a long time, doing nothing but listening to the soft hum of the night and the even softer weight of that realization settling in. It wasn't envy, exactly. It was the feeling that somewhere along the way, everyone else had started walking, and I had somehow stayed sitting. But the longer I sat with that feeling, the more it began to change shape. Not all at once. It didn't suddenly turn into motivation or clarity. It just softened, the way sharp edges do when you stop pressing against them. I started to notice something I hadn't before, that I was measuring my life using moments that didn't belong to me. Snapshots of someone else's timing, someone else's path, someone else's definition of what it means to be on track. And maybe that's where the quiet heaviness was coming from. Not from where I was, but from the constant comparison to where I thought I should be. Because the truth is, not all movement is visible. Some seasons of life don't look like progress from the outside. There are no announcements, no photos, no clear milestones you can point to and say, there, that's growth. Sometimes, growth is quieter than that. It happens in the way you begin to understand yourself a little more, in the way you outgrow thoughts that used to feel permanent, in the small, almost unnoticeable shifts in how you carry your own days. And those things don't translate well into timelines. Maybe being left behind isn't always about falling behind. Maybe it's about being in a different kind of moment, one that isn't meant to be rushed or compared. A moment that asks you to stay, to notice, to sit a little longer than feels comfortable. There's something strangely human about wanting life to move faster, especially when it feels like everyone else is already somewhere you haven't reached yet. But there's also something deeply human about needing time. More time than you expected. More time than others might understand. And maybe that doesn't mean you've missed your chance. Maybe it just means you're still becoming, in ways that don't need to be seen to be real. And maybe tonight, nothing really changes. The room is still quiet. The world outside is still moving at its own steady, indifferent pace. People are still chasing things, reaching places, beginning new chapters you can only glimpse from afar. And you're still here, in this same moment, with the same thoughts gently passing through. But maybe it feels just a little different now. Not lighter in a dramatic way. Not suddenly full of answers. Just softer. Like the weight of it all has shifted slightly, enough for you to breathe without noticing you were holding it in before. Because maybe you're not as far behind as it feels. Maybe you're just in a quieter part of your story. A space between chapters where things are still forming, still finding their shape. A place that doesn't ask you to prove anything, only to be present long enough to understand it. There's a kind of peace in realizing that life doesn't move in one straight line. That it pauses, circles back, lingers. That it gives some moments more silence, not because they matter less, but because they need more room to unfold. So if tonight feels slow, if it feels like you're standing still while everything else moves, maybe that's not where your story ends. Maybe that's just where it learns how to begin again. And if you stay here for a moment longer, quietly, without rushing it, what might you discover about where you really are?
Thank you for listening, and see you in the next story.